Hey, what's going on guys, this is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. The item shop is one of the most important aspects of Paladins, as it can dramatically change the game and help you get the advantage over your enemies. Because of this, it's important to know which items to buy in which circumstances, how credits are earned, and how to prioritize which items you buy first. This is something that a lot of new players tend to struggle with learning, but once you understand the basics, buying the right items becomes a breeze. That's why in this video I'll be breaking down the item shop in an easy to understand way, to help you know which items you should be buying. This is a new player-oriented guide, so if you or a friend you know is new to the game, then this is the guide for you. As always, if you're enjoying the guides on this channel, make sure you're subscribed by hitting the big red sub button down below. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into the video. Alright, now before we get into the item shop itself, we need to talk about the currency which you use to buy items, credits. Credits and gold are two different things. Gold is what you earn by playing matches and is used to purchase champions and some basic cosmetics. I have a video covering the best ways to earn gold in Paladins already, so if you want to know the details about farming gold in Paladins, go watch that video once we're done. Credits are earned during a match, and are used to buy different items to help you win. You start with 450 credits at the beginning of every match unless you're in payload, and you can earn more credits in a few different ways. For starters, every player earns credits at a constant rate of 1 credit per second in Siege, 2 credits per second in payload, and 5 credits per second in Team Deathmatch, Onslaught, and King of the Hill. Every player can also earn credits by standing near the objective, at a rate of 4 every 2 seconds for standing on the capture point, and 2 every second while standing near the payload. Credits are also earned by healing teammates, doing damage, getting kills, and taking damage. You can earn 20 credits for every 6,000 damage dealt, damage taken, damage blocked with shields and deployables, and hit points healed. Credits earned by getting kills and assists is a bit more complicated. You earn a flat 30 credits for landing the killing blow on an enemy, and half that for getting an assist. You then get a further 10 credits for each level of an enemy's kill streak if you land a killing blow, and 5 credits for each level if you land an assist. So if an enemy you killed had a streak of 5, you earn 50 additional credits for killing them, or 25 additional credits if you only got an assist. However, you can earn more credits from some of these actions depending on your role. Support champions earn double the amount of credits for healing teammates, flank champions earn 30% more credits for getting kills, and damage champions earn double the credits for dealing damage. Quite simply, if you're doing your job, you're going to get more credits. There's also one more way you can earn credits in Siege, by successfully capturing an objective to 100%. If your team captures the objective, everyone on your team earns 300 credits each, even if they're not standing on the objective. This makes capturing the objective a big deal, because the team that does so basically gets a free tier 1 item. So, now that we know what credits are and how to get them, let's talk about what you can buy with them. There are 16 different items in Paladins, and you can choose to buy up to 4 of them in every match. They're broken up into 4 different categories: defense, utility, healing, and offense. Once you've purchased an item, you can upgrade it 2 more times to increase its effectiveness, and each upgrade will cost more than the last. You cannot sell items, but if you accidentally bought an item and haven't yet closed the item shop, you can press the undo button to refund the item. Once you've closed the item shop, however, you cannot undo any of your previous purchases. Now, I'm going to go over what each item does and when you would want to use it, but before I do that, I'm going to advise that if you have the auto buy option turned on, you should turn it off. Manually buying items is far better than what the automatic system can do, because the auto buy system buys really bad items most of the time that don't help you out as much as if you picked your items yourself. To turn off auto buy, go to settings, then gameplay, then set auto purchase items to disabled. Now then, let's get started explaining the items. Illuminate is the cheapest item in the item shop, and it allows you to see invisible enemies from farther away. As of April 2023, these 6 champions are the only ones which are able to go into stealth, meaning they go invisible. You can use Illuminate to increase the range at which you can see Kasumi Spirit Bombs as well. If you're up against one or more of these champions, in particular Strix or Skye, this item can be very helpful. If you're not up against them, however, then you should never buy this item, because it is completely useless against every other champion. Next up is Resilience, which is also extremely cheap. This item mitigates the effect of all crowd control abilities by up to 75%, and is one of the best items in the game. Some crowd control like stuns, cripples, and blinds will have their duration reduced, while other crowd control like slows and knockbacks will be made less potent. If the enemy team has a lot of crowd control, this item should be one of the first you pick up. Guardian increases the health of shields by up to 30%. It works on shields which are abilities such as Fernando's Tower Shield, Makoa's Shell Shield, and Torvald's Personal Shield. However, it does not work on passive shields or cards, so Octavia cannot buy Guardian for her shielding passive, and Rom cannot buy Guardian for any of his shielding cards. Even though it might seem like a wise choice to purchase this item for champions like Fernando, it's actually not. This item gets hard countered by another item in the item shop, Wrecker, which we'll discuss later. Generally speaking, you should not buy this item unless it gets a more beneficial buff or rework in the future. Haven is one of the strongest items in the game by far. It gives the player damage reduction against most sources of damage, and the only thing it doesn't protect you from are executes like Drogo's Dragon Punch or Lex's ultimate. If you don't know what item to buy Haven. You can never go wrong with this item. Next up are the utility items. Nimble is another one of the cheapest items in the game, and it makes you move faster. This is a great option for just about every champion, but it's especially important for champions who have limited mobility like Inara and Tyra. Nimble does not affect how fast you move on your horse, however, because that's what the next item, Master Riding, does. Master Riding helps you get back to the fight faster than the enemies and helps you flank in some circumstances. This item is very helpful on super long maps like Ice Mines, since it greatly cuts down on the time it takes to get back into the fight. It can also be good on snipers to get back to their vantage points faster, flankers to get into the backline faster, and tanks to get into the point faster. It's not an item you want to pick up all the time, but it can be very helpful under certain circumstances and with certain champions. Morale Boost is the next item, and it causes your ultimate to generate faster. It's best used on champions who have powerful ultimates that are useful to spam. Eevee with Snow Globe, Ashe, Grover, and Grok are some great champions to buy this item for. The last item in the utility section is Chronos. Chronos is another super powerful item, and is mandatory for most support champions. Chronos makes your abilities come back faster, which is crucial for healers who need to use their supportive abilities as much as possible. There are a few exceptions though. If you're playing Pip with the talent Combat Medic, Deft Hands can be a better first buy, since you're using your weapon to heal your teammates. Chronos is not helpful on Io because it does not affect the rate at which you recharge Moonlight. In some cases, Morale Boost is also a better first buy on Ying and Lilith, since their cooldowns are low and their ultimates are amazing. Chronos is also a fantastic option on some tanks like Makoa with Half Shell, since it allows them to use their shields more often. Some damage and flank champions like Amani with her ability spam build also benefit heavily from Chronos. Chronos is not available on Koga or Sati, however, since they use a resource meter for their abilities instead of cooldowns. Next up are the healing items. These are pretty straightforward, and some work better on certain champions than others. Rejuvenate increases the amount of healing you get from teammates, and is most often bought on tanks. It's very important to keep in mind that this will not increase the healing you get from your own healing abilities. For example, if you're playing Grok and try to heal yourself with your healing totem, you will not get more healing with Rejuvenate. Rejuvenate also serves as a direct counter to the passive anti-healing mechanic, since it stacks additively against it. For example, if you have Rejuvenate 3 and the passive anti-healing is maxed out at 90%, then you can subtract the 30% from Rejuvenate against the 90% anti-healing to only receive a 60% anti-healing penalty if you get shot. This mechanic works the same way for cards which offer Rejuvenate bonuses that can often be found on tanks. So, when should you buy Rejuvenate? If you're playing a tank and have a high output healer like Lilith, Grover, or Maldamba, or you have multiple healers, Rejuvenate can be a great choice. However, if you have a low output healer like Ray, Rejuvenate might not be the best option. Rejuvenate can also be helpful if you're playing a damage or flank champion with a pocket like Corvus, but it's usually not as good as Kill to Heal in most situations. Speaking of Kill to Heal is our next healing item. This item heals you for getting kills and assists, which is no big surprise. However, something that's really unique about this item is that it's the only item which entirely ignores Cauterize. This item will never be diminished by anti-healing, even when you're standing in Willow's dead zone. That makes this item an extremely consistent form of healing, provided you can reliably earn eliminations. This is best on flank champions, whose job it is to secure kills. It's also a great buy on supports, since they can get assists by healing teammates who then get kills. Next up is Life Rip, which heals you for a percentage of the damage you deal. This item is best on high damage output champions like Bomb King, Caspian, and Octavia, and a poor option on low damage output champions like Fernando and Barrick. It works well with cards that provide a flat heal whenever hitting enemies, and it stacks on Buck and Pip's lifesteal cards without any diminishing returns. When stacking with other lifesteal sources though, this item runs into some issues with diminishing returns. Unlike its counterpart Kill to Heal, this item does not ignore Cauterize, making it an unsavory option in today's meta apart from some niche circumstances. The last healing item is Veteran, which increases your maximum health by up to 16.5%. While this item is cheaper than Haven, it's also much less effective in basically every circumstance. There are a couple of reasons why Haven is better than Veteran, but the first is simply that Haven provides more effective hit points than Veteran. Haven provides 1.5% additional effective hit points over Veteran for just a few more credits. Of course, diminishing returns can make Veteran more impactful than Haven in some cases when stacking multiple sources of damage reduction, like when using Inara's Talent Mother's Grace, or when using Terminus's Undying build. However, for most champions, Haven is still the better option when it comes to increasing EHP. The second reason why Haven is better than Veteran is because it makes your healer's job a lot easier. To illustrate this, let me give you a hypothetical situation. Kinessa takes aim and shoots at you, which normally deals 1200 damage. Pip then throws a potion at you, which heals you for 1000 health. In total, you've just lost 200 health. If you bought Veteran, this situation would not change. However, if you bought Haven 3, you would only lose 984 health from Kinessa's shots, allowing Pip's potion to heal you back up to full HP. In a weird way, Haven can act like Rejuvenate, causing healing to be more effective. Veteran can also cause you to take even more damage than usual if you're up against percent-based damage like Tyra's Firebomb and Sky's Poison Bolts. The damage of percent-based abilities scales off of your maximum health, so if you increase your max health with Veteran, you'll actually take more damage than if you invested into a different item. The last reason why Haven is better than Veteran is that it causes the enemies to generate fewer credits and ultimate charge. Remember what I said about credit generation at the start of the video. You can earn 20 credits for every 6,000 damage dealt, damage taken, damage blocked with shields and deployables, and hit points healed. So, if you reduce the damage that enemies deal to you, they'll take a longer amount of time to reach that 6,000 credit threshold to get another lump sum of credits. They'll also generate their ultimates more slowly because they're doing less damage to you. So with that being said, when should you buy Veteran? Well, if you're stacking multiple large sources of damage reduction like I mentioned earlier, then Veteran can be the better option because it won't have any diminishing returns. However, you still shouldn't buy it if you're up against percent-based damage. The other time you should buy Veteran is if you need even more HP and you've already bought Haven. Stacking both of the items together is a significant investment, but it can make you extremely hard to kill. Lastly, if you're really strapped for cash, then Veteran can be a cheap way to get a little bit more brawn. Otherwise, Haven is simply the superior choice. Anyways, that's enough talk about Haven and Veteran. Finally, let's move on to the offensive items, which are all pretty situational. First, let's talk about the newest item in the game, Lethality. Lethality is an item which increases your movement speed and jump height by a significant amount after getting a kill. It's designed to help you snowball kills in a similar way to Kill to Heal, making this item best suited for flanks and aggressive tanks. However, it lacks the same consistency as Nimble and it's also more expensive, making this item less savory than other options. Next, let's talk about Deft Hands, which is the biggest meme item in the item shop. Deft Hands causes you to reload faster, which can be helpful on champions who spend a long time reloading. It can potentially save you in the middle of a duel if you need to reload, and it can help you spam out more damage throughout the duration of the match. However, its benefits far outweigh the opportunity cost of picking up other items in most cases. Generally, other items like Haven, Nimble, and Kill to Heal are better in most situations, with a few exceptions. You see, there are a few times where buying Deft Hands makes sense. When Maldamba reloads, he fires a stunning projectile that can help him secure kills, and buying Deft Hands makes that projectile fire more quickly. So, Deft Hands is an excellent buy when playing Damba, and it's always the first item you should buy when using Wakono's Wrath. The same logic applies to Dredge with the Scuttle talent, since Deft Hands allows him to pump out more explosives. Deft Hands is also a top choice when playing Combat Medic Pip, since he uses his weapon to heal. Mitigating the time spent reloading can mean the difference between saving an ally and letting them die. Besides these few exceptions, Deft Hands is a low priority item that you should only be buying if you don't really need anything else and can just blow credits on whatever you want. And if you buy Deft Hands on Fernando or Grok, I will personally report you for throwing. Lastly, let's talk about Bulldozer and Wrecker. These two items can be extremely confusing for new players, since they both increase the damage you deal against a variety of targets. Bulldozer increases the damage you deal against deployables, pets, and illusions, while Wrecker increases the damage you deal against shields. Now, deployables, pets, and illusions are all effectively the same thing. They're something that a champion deploys apart from themselves to do damage or help their team. Good examples of these are Barrack's turrets, Ying's illusions, and Grok's totems. Bulldozer is also effective against Io's pet Luna and Imani's dragon. Shields are barriers whose sole purpose is to block damage and projectiles. Barrick and Fernando are two of the best examples of champions who have shields. Now, Inara's Wall does not count as a shield, since it also blocks enemies from moving through an area, so Bulldozer would be effective against Inara's Wall, not Wrecker. I want to reiterate, if you're struggling with Inara's Walls, do not buy Wrecker. Buy Bulldozer instead. This is a common mistake I see a lot of new players make, so I want to make that extra clear. Now, if you're not sure whether something you're shooting at is a deployable or a shield, look at the color of the damage number that pops up when you shoot it. If you shoot something that's not an enemy champion and the number is red, you've shot a deployable. If you shoot something and the number is yellow, that's a shield. If there are no shields on the enemy team, don't buy Wrecker, and if there are no deployables, don't buy Bulldozer. Neither item increases the damage done to players themselves. That includes Rom's soul armor, by the way. I've seen some people think that it's a shield or some form of bulldozable armor. It's not. It's just health. Don't buy either of these items against Rom alone. Anyways, now that you know what each item does and when it's best to buy it, let's talk about some general item buying strategies for different classes. Let's start off with damage and flank champions, since they're the most straightforward. Items like Haven and Nimble are generally all-around solid items for these champions, and Kill to Heal is also a great choice particularly for flanks, since their whole goal is to clean up kills. Chronos and Morale Boost can also be good, depending on the champion. And of course, Resilience is a must-buy if there's powerful crowd control like stuns, roots, and cripples on the enemy team. Next, let's talk about supports. Broadly speaking, there are only two ways to play a support, as a main healer and as a damage champion. You should only play a support with their damage build if you have a second support who can adequately heal the team. Otherwise, you should play as a proper healer. For main healers, Chronos is almost always your first buy and the item you want to max out, since Chronos will allow you to heal your teammates more frequently and reliably. There are a few notable exceptions to this rule that I mentioned earlier. Io doesn't benefit from Chronos at all because her healing comes from a resource meter. Ying and Lilith can benefit from morale boost more than Chronos in some cases because their cooldowns are low and their ultimates are amazing, and Combat Medic Pip benefits more from Deft Hands because he uses his weapon to heal his team. When playing Mega Potion Pip, however, Chronos goes back to being a mandatory first buy. Most other supports can benefit from morale boosts too, but I wouldn't recommend it on champions whose ultimates aren't very impactful, like Io, Corvus, and Genos. The supports who benefit from it the most are Grover, Grok, Ying, Furia, and Lilith, because all of their ultimates are absolutely amazing. After those two items, it's all about staying alive. Kill to Heal is the best healing item for supports, since they get assists off of healing teammates who get kills. They don't shoot enemies very often, so Life Rip isn't very impactful, and Rejuvenate does not impact their self-healing at all. Haven is fantastic, and a great buy on any support once you've got a decent level of Chronos. The same goes for Resilience when the situation calls for it. Of course, if you're playing a damage support instead of a main support, the itemization is pretty much the same as the damage champions which I talked about earlier. The one exception is Maldamba, who should prioritize Deft Hands due to his unique damage playstyle. After getting Deft Hands 3, you can buy other items as usual. Lastly, let's talk about tanks. Itemization for tanks is complicated, and changes based on which playstyle you're using. Certain tanks benefit from rushing Chronos over other items. Makoa with Half Shell needs Chronos to maintain uptime on his shield, Atlas requires Chronos because he has the longest cooldowns in the game, and Torvald benefits from Chronos to better pocket his team with shields. Rom, Ruckus, Barrack, and Fortress Breaker Ashe are all great candidates for this item as well. Aside from Chronos, Nimble is an excellent item on most slowed tanks. Inara and Torvald benefit heavily from Nimble since they have no movement abilities, but it can also help out basically any other tank whose goal is to walk at people and kill them. Resilience is also imperative on tanks when there's crowd control in the lobby, since tanks will naturally absorb most of the crowd control effects due to being big, walking targets. Mitigating the time spent stunned and on your butt is a major increase to how effective you can be. Rejuvenate is by far the best healing item for tanks. Tanks have low damage to compensate for their beefy health pools, so they get very little healing from Life Rip. Kill to Heal provides a relatively low amount of healing for tanks in their gargantuan health pools, making it a less reliable form of sustain than pumping up the amount they get from their healer. And of course, even though you might be tempted to buy Guardian with beefy shield tanks like Fernando and Torvald, don't give in to the urge. If you're playing such a champion, the enemy team is already buying Wrecker from the start of the match. Guardian is a total waste of credits once Wrecker comes into play, since both items cost the same amount, but Wrecker provides a more powerful effect. Instead, purchase other items that can help you sustain more damage in other ways, like Haven for damage reduction or Rejuvenate like I mentioned earlier. However, if you're playing Inara, please don't let me catch you buying Haven in your matches. Because of diminishing returns, Haven 3 provides a mere 6% additional damage reduction when Mother's Grace is active, making the item nearly useless. Instead, buy Rejuvenate, Nimble, and other items that complement her playstyle, instead of building for more damage reduction. The same goes for other high damage reduction tanks like Yaggroth and Terminus with a proper Undying build. But with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this guide for proper itemization in Paladins. As I'm sure you've noticed, there are a few key items which you should almost always be buying in your games, and a few items which are simply less useful. Nimble, Haven, Chronos, and Resilience are what I would say are the 4 all-around most useful items in the game. Nimble is very helpful for repositioning and dodging enemy attacks, Haven is good on almost every champion, Chronos is mandatory on supports and a lot of tanks, and Resilience is crucial to counteract the powerful crowd control effects in the game. Everything else is situational and depends on the champion you're playing and the enemies you're fighting, but can still be very helpful in the right circumstance. Now that you know what the items do and when it's best to use them, you can make the right call when deciding what to purchase to counter the enemy team and stay alive. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure to drop a like and share this video with anyone else who you think might find it useful. Also make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload from me, and check out my Twitch channel and Discord server linked in the description. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching, I will see you all next time, peace out.